I have to press the button.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Nick.
I'm Jill.
And we're HipStrings. So in the ridiculous continuation of my glasses, I've decided to go my VR headset again this year. And it's technically correct because I actually have prescription lenses in this thing now. So, but last year I was able to see the stream and everything, the comments on my my augmented reality web browser. For some reason it wasn't working today, so Jill might actually have to read out things for me, but we'll see if I can maybe make do somehow. I'm actually kind of thinking maybe I can watch the stream while we're streaming, but that might kill our bandwidth.
That might kill the bandwidth.
Okay, anyway.
Okay, so today's day 5.
Day 5.
And I have put up the live streams for the entire rest of the set, and there is a playlist on the HipStrings YouTube channel for Base12 2024. So if you want to go back and watch anything, it's all there, and it will be there.
And today, I got day number 1.
And I got day number 5, which is what Nick spun last night.
Yes, yes. So that's the surprise part, right?
I'm going to see if Nick's thing of splitting it lengthwise
helps. You
helps.
figured out my secret. So are you going to talk about day 1?
What, day 1?
I mean, day 5?
Day 5?
You can talk about
yes,
day 5,
I guess.
considering the fact that people have not actually gotten that experience yet.
So day 5 is Kingfisher, which is a new signature blend in the flora and fauna. That's why it's not taking up. In the flora and fauna collection, it is. Do you have the key? I don't want to screw this up.
I do have the key, and you are cheating to make me
do things.
Yes. Okay. Kingfisher. It is 50% merino, 25% Shetland, 12.5% Tussa silk, and 12.5% mulberry silk. And then do I need to read day 1 also?
Yeah.
So
I actually think the key might be wrong. I think Kingfisher doesn't have the mulberry silk. I think it's actually Rami. Rami's a bast fiber, but it's a very soft, silky bast fiber.
do you want me to check on your website?
It's not online.
It's not online.
It's not online. I haven't photographed it. So.
Oops. I just like showing off like the future here, so I'm gonna go to the HipStrings website anyway. There we go. So apparently there's a chat thing. Interesting.
So people are wondering about the VR. So Nick has prescription lenses for his VR headset, so therefore it is a different set of glasses for him.
I love technical correctness. I also like showing off the fact that I can indeed spin. Maybe I can't. I can indeed normally spin while wearing.
Kathleen's saying that you need to wear that headgear with spinning on T-Rex for maximum effect. The thing is, though, you wouldn't see that Nick's wearing the headset while in the T-Rex costume.
I guess I could put it on the T-Rex itself, but that wouldn't work really well.
So.
Yeah, so this is a Quest 3. I really like the pass-through vision ability from Zenny, the same place I got my other glasses. But yeah, I absolutely, I mean, I'm a huge nerd, as we've been talking about, and I've been with various types of VR headsets for quite a while. I remember back when I was probably in middle school, we took a trip to Ocean City, and in the mall there was kiosks for VR, and oh my god, I must have made my parents spend so much money there just to do these. There was 2 specific games. One was a pterodactyl was hunting you, and you had to shoot it down, and I mean, the graphics were terrible. Like, the pterodactyl was quite literally like 2 triangles and maybe a rectangle in between them flying around. But it grabbed my imagination, and I've been adoring it since. So like now I truly feel like VR is starting to get to the point where it's actually really accessible. you know, I showed this off last year, and I'm doing it now. But the fact that I can actively spin and see what I'm spinning and troubleshoot my spinning, while at the same time I have you know, the HipStrings website up over here, and I can scroll through it. Just you can't see what I'm doing here, but you know, imagine that there's a box right here that's a website, and you know, I can have multiple windows up. Obviously, there's good games and things like that. One of the great things during the pandemic, we had a friend that out in California that we hadn't seen forever, and he had a VR headset too, and so the three of us were in a virtual world just sitting next to each other, and it felt like we were actually in the same room. It was really great. Okay. The one problem is I can't really read on the other screen.
Somebody's saying is whatever the number 5 blend is, it makes a lovely single.
Ah, it does make a lovely
I
single.
am switching.
It's also a lovely blend. It is so shimmery and what?
I was speaking.
I'm sorry.
I was talking about how I'm switching up my drafting hand because I have been drafting with my left hand forward, and now I'm doing right hand forward, and see if that speeds me up any.
Oh. You are observing everything that I'm doing to see if
No,
it'll make
I'm
it go
just
faster?
trying my different ways of spinning and seeing what I can do.
All right, just saying. Since I have the website up, I'm actually looking at the beautiful posts and the pictures you've made. You want to talk a little bit about the beautifully decorated spindles that you did one example of?
I did one example of. I'll talk more about them once I actually test that one and put it up for sale. Been playing with, you know, some different techniques and trying something new.
But
So,
I mean, I think the bottom line, the important thing I wanted to bring up there is the fact that you have now an idea of how to add coloration to some of the spindles that we have. I know we've had one that had a slight color on it, the Triforce one that we've sold before, but now you have something that might actually allow us to do a little bit more color.
Yeah. Well, we've got to see how well things work.
Yeah.
It's in the prototyping stage. So.
Okay. What else is I can see it scrolling, but
Kathleen says they don't need VR. Plain old reality is quite enough, thank you. And Hollis is sorry that I'm late, but I'm here now. And we're glad you're here now.
welcome. Okay, so I did make a comment yesterday about another audience participation question, which is, what fibers do you not like to spin? And I'm going to preface this with the fact that for the most part, Jill has excellent rationale and how you can save or avoid certain types of fiber depending on why you don't like to spin them.
Well, usually you don't like to spin it because it's something that's not well suited to how your default spinning.
Yeah.
So I don't like spinning 100% mulberry silk because you cannot get twist in that fiber supply. And most of my default spinning is putting twist in my fiber supply. I very rarely spin a true worsted. And so it's not a surprise that mulberry silk is troublesome. So, I mean, I kind of have the same thing with combed Egyptian cotton, but I love cotton, so I'm willing to put up with it.
I will say, quite honestly, I think I don't like spinning just plain anything. I really, really like spinning blends of things because you've spoiled me. You've been able to take any fiber that has some good property and then augment it with something else.
Yes.
There's some exceptions. I know the, oh God, why am I blanking on it? Your favorite fiber.
Targi?
Targi, yeah. Targi is wonderful to spin.
Mm-hmm. But I think most of the Targi you've spun is actually Targi bamboo silk.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
You had also gotten on a kick with Shiniko for a while.
Well, I had some superwash Shiniko in the shop.
Yeah.
But I'm not carrying it because I have superwash Targi, which is better.
Okay. All right. So what's the commentary here?
Heather said, "Wow, joined late. Didn't expect the VR glasses." Kathleen says, "All unspun fiber is basically a prototype." That is true. That's why I like spinning fiber rather being a knit. Just buying commercial yarn. Red says, "I don't like to spin plastic, which includes most of the extruded fibers."
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, and it's mostly because the extruded fibers don't really have crimp.
Yeah.
And crimp makes spinning a lot easier. Samantha says rose fiber is difficult. I want to buy it, though. I've tried from the fold, and it's still difficult. Rose is really nice in blends. It is the closest regenerated cellulose to mulberry silk that I have found. But spinning it on its own, it's even like a harder version of mulberry silk.
Well, spinning anything that, like you're saying, that has no crimp on its own is really hard. All
Yes.
the silks and everything.
So, Lenore says 100% merino. Now, Lenore, is that all merino or just run-of-the-mill merino? Because run-of-the-mill merino is not my favorite, but, like, there's special merino out there that I love. And I also love merino that's bred for meat, dual-purpose merino. It's a lot toothier. And it has kind of a disorganized crimp. I think sometimes merino is such a fine fiber and kind of slippy for being a wool, and has such a regular crimp that it can be trickier to spin.
I realized I'm like a little bit behind you, so I don't want to make you turn your neck. That's why I'm going to move a little bit.
So,
sorry.
Jean says, "This day 5 shines. Love it." Don't like to... And then Donna says, "Don't like to spin poorly prepared fiber or over-dyed." And I will totally agree with you with that. I will nope out on fiber if the prep's not good. And I have been known to take bats and recard them to my liking. It's funny. I have a friend who I was teaching a class and I was like, here's an example of badly prepped carded roving. And this is important because carded doesn't have the same kind of quality control as like comb top. And she's like, "What is this stuff? I love it." And it had shortcuts in it and NEPs and VM. So I now try to be careful not to qualify fiber when giving it to students. I can objectively characterize it, but not judge it.
By the way, you know, that's probably a good segue into at least mentioning the article you have coming up in Ply, or the one, maybe it's not coming up, but the
Which
one you
one?
just wrote. The how to properly prep
Oh, yes.
fiber or the bats, right?
Yeah.
What is the actual title?
So
or
it's in the
subject?
tension issue. It's no NEP carding.
That's what it is.
And I mean, it really comes down, well, it talks a lot about why NEPs form and the different types of NEPs, and how you can avoid them. And generally the answer is, you have to do pre-processing. Either using a flicker, and this is focused on fleece, because fleece is most likely to NEP.
You don't want to give away the entire article.
Yeah. But carding is definitely a garbage in, garbage out type of fiber prep. And it is worth it to make sure that what goes in is good quality.
I know Laura has feelings about that.
Yes. But Laura's at a choir concert tonight, so.
Oh no. Well, she'll watch us later.
Reds,
I'm sure.
Hollis says no superwash, please. Okay. I gotta get some superwash Targhee in your hands, Hollis, because superwash Targhee does not feel like superwash. There are many different types of superwash processing, And the processing that's done on Targi kind of just like calms Targi down, but it still feels very woolly. And I'm spinning a sweater's worth of superwash Targi right now, and it is not slippy at all.
Well, so is that the reason why Hollis doesn't like it, is the question?
Yeah.
Because it's too slippy?
Well, like, Superwash BFL is slippy. Superwash Merino is slippy. I've not spun Superwash Cordell, but it's, like, I've knit with it in yarns, and it's still grippy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Superwash Shiniko. Superwash Shiniko is kind of in between Superwash Targi and Superwash Merino. It is a bit slippy.
Okay.
Red says Mendenhall, or no, I'm skipping. Red saying they're not a big bast fiber fan either. I think if you're spinning bast fibers, you kind of have to let go of every like notion you have about how fiber spins, and just like embrace the wild wide. I spun a whole bunch of bast fibers this summer and enjoyed it. I still haven't spun line flax, so.
So what qualifies a bast fiber?
A bast fiber is, there are cellulose fibers that are made from, I believe, the xylem of plants. So they are long plant fibers that run the entire length of the plant, typically. And they are harvested by retting, which is controlled decay.
Oh, weird.
So basically they're long strands of cellulose. And so what falls under bast fibers is stuff like flax, nettle, hemp. You can do okra.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
But like the surface texture of them is completely different than other fibers.
Yeah.
And you have no crimp. You have a spiral, but you have no crimp.
Okay.
So they're kind of unforgiving when it comes to twist.
Gotcha.
How
far are we behind on the comments?
I don't know.
Sorry. Let me see.
Kathleen said some hate spinning mohair due to lack of crimp. Never met a goat fiber I didn't love. I feel with mohair, has a lot to do with the quality of the prep. I've spun, I think it tends to felt very easily, so if it's overhandled, it can get compacted and be very difficult to draft, has been my issue with mohair. But yes, it doesn't have much crimp. So again, crimp makes life easier for spinners because it can absorb twist and even twist out. If you don't have as much crimp, then you have to be spot on with your twist. Otherwise, things get overspun or underspun very quickly. Amy is enjoying me saying slippy. Red says Mendenhall Merino in the 24 micron range is lovely. Yeah, like 23, 25 micron Merino is actually kind of fun to spin. It's really toothy and woolly.
Do you have a recommendation where someone might be able to get the meat merino wool?
So I have a light gray merino in my shop that is more of a naturally colored merino and is a little bit, I think it's like 24 micron. It does not spin. Like, it is toothier. It's like a really soft Corriedale. And I also have a natural brown merino, which is definitely in that does not seem like spinning merino at all. It actually spins more like Manx Lawton or down breeds.
Nice.
Cross Melina Ban. Blends with Sari Silk aren't for me. I have to fight the urge to pick out all those little thread ends. Yeah, and you can tend to get slubs and stuff with Sari Silk, no matter how well you try to get it blended.
But a lot of times when you do Sari Silk, it's specifically to get neps.
Yes,
right?
it is always for
tweed
effect. Like that's its purpose in life is to get that effect. If I want that kind of color effect with not creating little bits of texture, I pick a different fiber.
And the thing that always amazed me, I mean, the fact that sari silk is recycled silk from saris.
Yes.
Like that's just awesome.
Yep. Okay. Red says, my kryptonite is chunky. I still have those bricolage bats that stare at every once in a while. You gotta embrace it every now and then. And there's tricks for it. If you kind of draft them out with a Diz, can help do a little bit of blending with a fiber that you think is a little bit too much texture.
And that goes back into the prep stuff.
Yeah,
right?
if you get more air into the fiber supply, it'll make it easier for the texture to get integrated. And it won't cause a big interruption into your drafting triangle. And Red said, oh. Yeah, Red talking about having to train themselves not to pull out the fun bits.
You know, it is absolutely one of those, like, it is an exercise in mental plasticity, right? Like, this is what you've been trained to do to have a nice, smooth single. Now don't.
Well, you have to adapt. You can't... You have to make your fingers do work when there's texture in your fiber.
Now, that being said, one of our friends, they knew that there was a particular fiber. Was it a yarn that they were knitting with? When she was picking out all the individual strands? I think it was a yarn they were knitting with.
Yeah, it was a yarn that had... it was a flax blend. And so it had little thicker, rougher pieces of the flax fiber.
And they had it there to give it sort of a mohair look.
It wasn't mohair. Look, it's just...
It was not well incorporated.
It was not well incorporated, but that's what happens when you put flax in with a yarn. Toe flax. That's just nature of the beast.
Anyway, so Rebecca did not like how that was going to be against her skin, so she very meticulously picked out all the bits that were sticking out as she was knitting.
Yep.
Had a little vial next to her that she was putting all the bits in so she didn't, make a mess. It was great.
Okay. And Red is talking about nothing being better than your own prep, which I will agree.
You are the person who knows what you like the best.
Yeah. Diane says they don't enjoy poorly blended fiber. Don't jump clumps of wool and clumps of silk. Yeah. Sometimes you have to in order to get a particular effect in your spun yarn.
But if your spun yarn you're going for is something smooth and consistent, yeah.
Yeah. Amy saying, Laura isn't here, so I had to hold up the Pittsburgh Geese flag for her. Kathleen's asking if I like Jacob. I have a friend who raises them and keeps sending me fleeces. I don't have time to process.
Jacob's so rough.
Yeah, Jacob's a little bit higher micron than and longer staple length than my preference is. So I have some Jacob fleeces, but they're on the... I mostly just get to work with stuff that I can sell. And fleeces have to be like prime for me to work with them because otherwise they take too much time. I've been working through some bad fleeces this year and it was not worth my time.
I should probably spend this interlude to talk about my manliest knitting project ever.
Yes.
Which I'm sure I've mentioned this on a previous podcast, but for those of you that
we have lots of newbies,
don't remember or haven't heard it before, back when was this before HipStrings, or maybe right at the beginning?
It was before because it was our first Maryland.
So
it's what led us down the road to spinning and creating HipStrings.
So
it's all Maryland's fault.
I decided I was going to make the manliest knitting project ever. So. And it started originally from looking at a Jacob sheep, and they look like demons, right? Like the classic, cult skull, demon skull that people like to show is basically what a Jacob sheep skull looks like, with the sharp pointy horns in the middle and then the horns coming out of the cheek. So that absolutely is the start of the manliest knitting project ever. So I figured, okay, well, what should I make? And they are fingerless mitts, but if you really want to put the extra manly tag on it, they're not fingerless mitts. They're bracers, right? They're for battle. And the pattern I picked was fallberry mitts, which doesn't sound very manly until you realize they look like dragon scales, and we're getting deep into the D&D type of manliness here. So when we had a short trip to New York, and there I had found a yarn that was actually stainless steel
Habu.
From Habu, that had like a red coating of wool on it. So in my mind, it is blood-soaked steel, right? That I'm gilding my dragon scale bracers made of demon wool, and then to wrap it all up, I'm knitting them with carbon fiber needles because that's the manliest type of needle, right? So I that's probably the most manly I can claim to be because of my manliest knitting project in the world. I guess something else I can probably claim if I really want to make it extra, what's the word? Blanking on the word for, when you make assumptions about people.
Stereotypes?
Stereotypical, thank you. Why was I blanking on that word? Yes, to make it extra stereotypical. I have been working on that as a project for 14 years now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like as old as Adrian. Yeah, if anybody...
I think it might be older.
If anybody feels bad about the age of their whips, you got nothing on me. All right, sorry, I'm sure we're way behind on the comments.
Yeah. So Lenore says hand-combed fiber is the best. And then Red wants to know about our garments. So I am wearing, this is another hand spun. This is Riptide shawl. 2 words for Riptide. I think the designer is Danielle Landis, but I'm not sure. It's on Ravelry. The pattern is supposed to be finger and weight, but I made it in like worsted weight. It is a gigantic shawl. I love it. It takes the place of a coat. The green is some organic Polworth. That's probably some of the first fiber I hand dyed for HipStrings. And then the multicolored stripes are from a variety pack from Into the World, which is where I learned that I don't like variety packs if they don't separate different types of fiber. And what led me on my whole, if you have checked out the HipStrings YouTube videos on the great mashup, Spinalong, it's my whole, like, here's how you actually mix fibers so that they all need the same type of twist, because it really sucks when you use different fibers in, like, something like a matchup or patchwork kit or whatever that don't require the same amount of twist. But it is one of my favorite hand knit things. Nick is wearing...
I can talk about my own thing.
Okay.
I looked it up just to verify.
You seem distracted.
No. I wanted to make sure I remember the name. So I am wearing a sweater I knit that is the Gola pattern from Laura Nelkin. I liked the concept because instead of knitting top to bottom, it's left to right. And I took advantage of that for one of our double major or double minor? Major. One of our double major skeins. And so actually it's the double kit that has one skein on the front of it and the other skein on the back, right? So that tells you how much you're able to make out of it. I probably made it a little bit too short for me. If you see me standing up, it doesn't go as low as I want it to, but it's really comfy, and I like how it's shaped for the most part. So I might do it again someday. Did you finish?
I finished with like 2 drafts, or it fell apart with like 2 drafts to go.
You're not done yet?
So now I'm done.
Okay.
So apparently I was handicapping myself because I was spinning with left hand forward the last 4 nights, which is not the hand I usually draft with. I usually draft right hand forward. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go with that reason.
I am
as to
so
why...
glad that you found a good reason for that. It has nothing to do with how much later I started behind you.
I've been talking a lot.
And you've been reading. Maybe
Yes.
it's the fact that you were reading. Reading makes the person go faster.
Maybe.
All right.
Eve is asking, is that a VR headset? Yes, it is.
Yes. And going back to the beginning, I have prescription lenses inside of it, so I'm not... These are technically my glasses right now. And actually, I've done that before when I couldn't find my glasses. It's much easier to see this, so I've put it on to find my glasses.
It's also funny when he wears it to do the dishes.
Yes, it's so good because I could put a giant TV screen in front of me and wash the dishes. Like, I watched the Thanksgiving Day parade while I was cooking things for Thanksgiving. Not this year. Last year I did that, though.
So Ashley's apologizing for being late. Samantha's saying, doesn't have to be tonight, but could we discuss wheel care, specifically reconditioning the wood, and how often? I will talk about that since Nick might be a couple minutes more. Basically, so the fact is that most wheels are made of wood. Wood being a natural, thing, it still needs care and it still responds to its environment. And the biggest thing for wood is humidity. So it'll swell when it's humid and it'll shrink when it's dry. So depending on where you live, your wheel's going, and what happens throughout the seasons, it's going to change what cycles you have is going to change like what care you need. Most wheels are finished, unless you have to finish them yourself. Most wheels are finished with like a Danish oil, which it is like Waco Danish oil does have a petroleum products in it. But it will last for a good number of years.
What's a good number you're talking about? Like 100?
Probably 5 to 10.
Okay.
If you're at the point where that finish seems to be like you're getting to bare wood, then you need to do some light sanding and refinish. Just a coat or 2 of Danish oil. You always want to make sure you don't mix polyurethanes and waxes, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So sometimes if you have a more traditional wheel, it may be treated with a wax. And there's a lot of kind of wax things that we use to like give a nice finish in for cleaning wheels. Like Howard's Feed and Wax has beeswax in it. So you can use that on top of a poly, but if your wheel was originally treated with wax, you can't, because waxes penetrate, you can't like
put a polyurethane
on top. So a lot of traditional wheels will have been treated with wax or something like tung oil, and you can't, but those have more of a matte finish.
So
you can tell.
If something has a polyurethane on it,
water should bead.
Unless it's been scratched up.
Right.
You should actually never have to do anything for like 50 to 100 years.
Yeah. Depending.
So there's no wheels out there like that right now, right? Because the ones that have been using polyurethane haven't been around for 100 years.
Yeah.
But polyurethane is one of those things that's almost problematic in the art restoration realm because of the fact that it lasts for so long. If it's not completely crumbling, it's sticking around. So
most of my wheels, when I notice that things might be, if they're getting a little bit dirty or if it seems like things are a little bit dry, I'll give it a quick like once over with a little bit like Howard's Feed and Wax or beeswax. I make my own beeswax based wood finish, wood care, and I usually do that every year or 2.
And would
But
it
it's not particularly dry here.
would it be fair to say when it feels like it's dry, when the wood
Yeah.
feels like it's dry skin to some
Or if
degree?
it's not looking shiny.
Yeah.
If it seems to have lost its gloss finish, that's a good time to take care of your wheel. Or if you've spun something that's dirty, like, you know, I don't know, alpaca. Sometimes if you're working with fleece, you might want to take care of your wheel a little bit more. You especially want to make sure that any grit stays away from any bearings.
So that's in addition to the wood care. You're talking
wood
about
care.
making sure
the actual mechanics, like checking out that.
Making sure there's no grease, making sure there's no dirt that's getting into the bearings. Actually, I remember one of the wheels that you were restoring at one point in time. It had so much little bits of fluff and fiber that were stuck in a bearing.
I had to I have dental picks, metal dental picks that I use to clean fiber out of bearings, mostly for drum carters, but occasionally for wheels, because especially any sort of grit on anything that's rotating at a fast speed is going to wear your bearing.
Yep.
And you don't want to damage that stuff.
So I'm done spinning now.
Yes.
Are there any other comments we need to catch up on?
I was just going to say the one thing I will say that people don't often talk about is you should tighten your screws at least once a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should get to know what level of tightness they all need to be at, because not all of them should be super tight. Some of them need to be like just barely tight. And it's whatever makes your wheel behave the best.
But you had made comments, things that people don't think about looking at, the
treadle hinges.
Yep.
Need care every now and then. I use super lube.
The Ladybug has a ton of little screws that need to be tightened up, but again, not cranked down all the time.
There's a wedge at the back of the mother of all that will loosen up and cause a wobble, and you have to like some percussive maintenance to wedge that back in, and then it'll run nice and smooth.
And Kathleen's saying woolly winders need periodic cleaning, especially the spring area.
Yep. Follow the instructions.
A lot of good comments in terms of in terms of the repair there, and also
I wonder how people who need glasses find their glasses. You live with somebody else who is not as visually impaired as you, because I am very nearsighted, and if I can't find my glasses, by touch.
The other thing I'll do if I don't have my VR headset on me is I'll turn on the camera to my phone and have my phone right here, in order to find things. So I have all sorts of technical solutions. But you missed one of the best comments from Red.
I see that. There's something I have to tell you. I'm not left-handed. What is the stuff you get with Magic-Crafts wheels? It's a wax-based wood care.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. So you can use that, or you can use
wax. It's basically beeswax with some sort of oil and maybe a little bit of limonene, citrus, which helps clean.
Okay. Do you want to tell the dad joke I told you earlier, or
No.
You want me to tell the new one?
I'm just making sure.
Okay, we caught up.
Caught up. Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you call a group of chess fanatics arguing in the hotel lobby?
I don't know.
Chestnuts boasting in an open foyer. There was one other comment that came in. Kathleen says, I wore glasses for 40-ish years, then I had cataract surgery. Took forever to stop reaching up to take off my glasses at night.
Yeah.
I do that when I wear contacts sometimes, where I try to take off my glasses and it just doesn't work. Anyway, thanks for joining us tonight. We will be back again tomorrow. Now, I will say tomorrow is the halfway point.
Tomorrow's the halfway point. We'll
So-
be finishing up a bobbin.
Do we finish tomorrow or do we start a new bobbin tomorrow?
No, we started a new bobbin on day 7.
Okay. So
Because
you
it
have...
goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, thank you. So you have your 2-day warning. If you're doing a 2-ply, get your fresh bobbin ready. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yes.